I will now open the Town Council Work Session, Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, at 4 p.m., being held in the Council Conference Room at 150 East Monroe Street in Wytheville. Next will be to approve the agenda, but I need somebody to amend the agenda to do away with G.
Secretary, I'd like to request to amend the agenda, please, and do away with G, and discuss at a later date. And if we could go ahead and move H up to first, I'll need to leave after.
Yep. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? All right, so this will be a roll call. Ms. Atkins?
Atkins, aye.
Joseph Hand, aye.
Patterson, aye. Johnson, aye.
All right, so next on the agenda, we are going to move up the update regarding a proposed combined animal shelter with Wythe County. Okay,
I did hear from Stephen Bear on the animal shelter issue, and he says that they are working on the preliminary architectural report with, I think, the same group that did the Scott School, and that if we would like to participate, if we will get the information to them about what we would like to have in the cat shelter, he would consider adding that to their agenda for the preliminary architectural report. I think, and ultimately, though, I think whatever that part of the building might cost, it would be up to the town of Wytheville to fund both the A&E, that portion of A&E fees and facility. But that sounds fair enough to me. That's okay with you all. I will tell them we'll try to get him some information. I've tried to look online, just do some research on what presently the state-of-the-art cat shelter. Not a whole lot out there, so just I'll go over with you all at a later date with some of the things I've looked at. But sounds like we're moving in a positive direction, which I'm pleased.
I don't know, I want to put down any positive, but we've talked about this before, and I think some of the stopping things that might hold us up is that in our jurisdiction as a town, it says that the county is supposed to take care of the shelters for counties, and that the towns are not. So
I think we need to talk that over with Paul and just be sure that that is indeed his interpretation. If that's the case, we could take that stance.
And I was thinking, and I could be wrong, that because I think Mr. Freeman and I, we had this conversation, that I think the county is responsible, I think, for dogs, and I could be wrong with this. And I think Mr. Freeman has made it clear that the town, it does read like, I think the county shall, but the town sort of can either have it or not, that we don't have to have a cat shelter. I think that was his interpretation, that he showed me it is like law, that, you know, I think it's up to an option for the town, I think. Like I said, I could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but I know he did show me that. And I think the town just started a cat shelter. I'm just going to say out of the goodness of their heart. I don't know really why they did, but
well, I think the reason is they decided to license cats, and if they're going to license them, they had to pick them up. If they weren't licensed, so they had to do something with them. So that led to actually establishing a shelter. How it got, I think, as I recall, that's how it got started. So it was sort of a self-imposed requirement that if you're going to regulate them, you got to have something to put them, pick them up. We can get Paul to weigh in on that.
We just need to kind of look into it and make sure that we're.
Yeah, we are taking on the other end something else we don't need to, but if we want to, I think it's.
According to the handbook from the VML, it is the responsibility of the county to establish and maintain an animal shelter. That's what it says in here. So, I personally think they should be the ones, it's their responsibility.
Want me to convey that message to the county at this point, or do we wanna?
Well, I'm just quoting what the handbook says, and whose responsibility it is.
I'm not sure why, when the county agreed to spend funds on a animal, it didn't say, it said dog shelter, not animal shelter.
And I can't believe they would
And maybe-
establish a shelter for one type of animal.
And maybe they intended on, but did they say they intended to include cats, or do you even know?
I don't think.
No, they,
Yeah.
I think
I
the
don't think
intent was
I don't think
not.
because they don't really have a, and I could be wrong, I'm totally speaking, but I don't think they have a law for in the county. You know, Chief Hash?
No, I do not.
But I think it's something that some of us on council are very interested in pursuing it regardless. However, I think we should ask the question and see, but if they're not required by law to manage cats, which it sounds like they're
I
not,
don't think.
then I
think
don't
so.
know that that's going to fall under them. So, just a thought, but I don't want to send them a message that
No.
comes across that we're not. I just want to be careful how
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
how we
that's
say
it.
that,
I
and
think we
how
just
we
need to
present
make
it.
sure that we're,
But we can certainly look
We're
into
in
what you're
the-
saying. You're right, exactly. Yes, ma'am. I just don't know that cats are included.
I mean, even if that does say that the county is solely responsible, we have been running a cat shelter in the town. And I think the whole scenario was they have a dog shelter already. And it was just to kind of come together and build good rapport with the county and do things in good faith. And I think, even though it does say that in the handbook, I think the whole gist of the situation was for us to have a nice shelter so that cats and dogs would be adopted out at the same time. And no, I don't want to take that and throw that in the county's face and say, well, this is your responsibility. That's not the way to go about things. Can I finish saying what I'm saying? Thank you. But at the same time, I think that we can work together and, for the betterment of our town, our citizens, and the county. I think that we should build good relationships and work together when it comes to the animals that are being picked up, animals that can be adopted out and placed in loving homes. That's important.
We had a lady from the TNR, I think this was before you came on, Mr. Hand, that if we did not do something about, not that if we didn't, that it would be overflowing with cats, overgrown.
Yes, ma'am.
Overgrown, sorry.
I did do some research online and looked at state-of-the-art cat shelters and dog shelters as well. The good thing about the cats is they don't require as much square feet. You can have something a lot smaller, and there is no outside space required. So it would be a lot less expensive as far as a cat shelter because they don't have outside space for dogs like they do. So we can look at square feet, and you could probably estimate it per square foot pretty close, or give them an ideal per square foot what we need, maybe, possibly, after we do some research. And then when they are doing their construction, it'll be by the square feet. We just add many square feet on. That would be the town's responsibility, maybe. Just one way to think about that. So I would like to keep conversation going with them, and maybe, it's still, they've just now started the conversation. It's just going to take a lot of time to get plans. So, there's going to be a lot of other opportunity to talk about it. We can ask Paul, but I'm like, I see it as a opportunity to build a better partnership with the county. And I do feel like we have some responsibility for the cats and dogs. So just my thought on that. So maybe we can keep talking about that.
And I guess the thing we need to remind them of is that we're county citizens too.
Absolutely.
We're paying taxes for it already, so we're just adding additional.
And maybe you and Paul can have those good talks. All those good talks you all can have.
And I'll begin to at least nudge Stephen in that direction, that we feel like, we're sort of paying for it already, but we want a nice shelter, and we want to be bring cats there and adopt cats out of it. And I think that, as long as we're not in a confrontational mode on that, I think that'll go well.
Yeah.
So far, that has not.
I mean, they do. I mean, they do their job as far as picking up. I mean, I don't know where that come into play, even though it does say it's their responsibility. I don't know why that came into play when we had just entertained the conversation. I do know that they do what they're supposed to do as far as picking up dogs or picking up whatever they need to get picked up. I mean, they do that job. They do what they're supposed to do. So I don't think there's any need for us to remind them, of what they should be doing. I thought we were just trying to entertain a conversation on having a shelter, a nice place together. That was my understanding.
Mine as well.
And they do come in, I know, town and answer calls, and we've had like animal control issues they have stepped up.
Yes.
Well, I did want to make it clear that I was not being on the negative side about that. Because some council members were not here previously when we had talked. I'm not even sure why it even got dropped at that time. If there was something political or something, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm good at going forward with trying to figure out what's going on.
And I'm gonna excuse myself if that's okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
My prayers.
Thank you.
Grandmother passed away as she was walking the door here. Just left her grandmother and she passed. Why we got.
Yeah.
Right, so next would be B, consider the request of the Wytheville Rotary Club to install a peace pole in Winters Park.
You have about as much information as I know about this attached to your package there. And we did get a good bit of information that just describes what a peace pole is. I don't think there's any need to rush, but if you're not trying to object to it, I think it's probably a nice thing to have in the park.
Maybe it's
So
something
just
for people to dwell on.
This one might be something good as we develop the Love Park, where the big love is. John Woods had put together a sketch when I was here the first time of that park. I still have all that. So these are the kind of things that would be so nice in that area, just to say, or in the park as well. But I think this would be nice to have.
I think they might not mind having it either place, just place it awesome like that.
We need to vote on that? I don't think we do we?
Not sure at
Just a
this point you
consensus?
need to vote on it. It's just, I think we can take back the message. If you're okay with it, we may consider putting it in Love Park.
Well, that was just a thought. I mean, I was
Yeah, I
Just
think that would be
thinking if you-
nice.
Or Little Brownie. I mean, it could be in any of them.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the park. And they would give,
Well,
and they would actually let council see what they're proposing before they put it in, right?
Yeah, I think.
You might want to see that piece pole.
Well, I think it basically looks like the one you see pictured here from all I can do.
Because they're hard to. I see. That's one. Are they just going to install one pole?
I think there's one pole.
Because it shows some pictures of multiple. I see in flags. Okay. They all say something a little different.
That'd be nice to know dimensions and how they
Yeah.
want to install
I
it.
think so as well. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Easy. Easy.
Our agenda would be discussion regarding hazard mitigation grant applications.
So we are going to go through this information pretty quickly, and Jeff's going to help me with the clicker. I do want to give credit to Andrew Austin of the engineering department for putting this together. He did most of the work on this presentation. And Andrew's also serving as the project manager for this project, so he's also working diligently on the back end to populate the grant portal. Okay, well, the VDEM Hazard Mitigation Grants Program. Next slide. So it was interesting because we started talking about flood proofing the wastewater plant and the water plant prior to Tropical Storm Helene, and then Helene hit, and then it became very evident that we really need to start thinking about our two plants and preparing for the future and also preventing these flooding events. These images here are from May of 2002. The one on the right is your water plant, and the one on your left is your wastewater. Next slide. Again, April 2015, we had the flooding again at both plants. And there are some images from those events. The slide on your right is actually the new side clarifiers, and those are the same clarifiers that were damaged from Helene. Had repeated flooding events at both of our plants. Next slide. In February of 2020, we had another flooding event at the water plant, and then again in 2024, which is when the tropical storm hit. And oddly enough, this past weekend, we also had a flooding event. So from what I understand, the levels were just as high as they are in those images. Okay, next slide. Here are some of the impacts that we see to the different facilities and the equipment each time that it floods. It shorts out pumps. It's a mess to clean up. Sometimes we become in violation of DEQ because of the events and our inability to treat the water. So the flood events have multiple negative impacts to both plants. Okay, next slide. So this slide here is really just to say, how do we fix it? We don't have a lot of really great solutions just because both the water plant and the wastewater plant are located on Reed Creek. So they are functionally required to be there because of what they do. They pull water from the creek, and then the creek also receives the wastewater. If you've been following NOAA, they do predict that flooding events will increase in the future. So the time is now to start working on this. There is something called flood proofing. So essentially, flood proofing is a general term that just means that you prepare the site to be flooded. And that's what we are proposing as part of these grant applications. Okay, next slide. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, eligible entities are localities, nonprofits, planning districts. There's two projects or two pools of monies. One is they typically have an annual grant cycle that anybody can apply for at any time. But if you do have a national disaster, you kind of get preferred funding status. And so our staff believes that this is the year that we really need to submit these applications because of Helene. We will get preferred grant status by submitting the grant applications. Okay, next slide. Some of the eligible things that you can do, again, you can retrofit your existing buildings to make them less susceptible to damage. You can elevate. You can utility and infrastructure retrofits. We have some of that as part of our proposals. And then drainage improvements. Hazard mitigation plans, which, as you all recall, at the last meeting, we just approved our regional plans. So that's great. Next slide. So typically, the award breakdown is 75% federal and 25% local or state. We are working closely with the reps at VDEM, and based on previous awards, we think that we will be able to be in a category of 75% federal, 20% state, and 5% local. That's a really good match if we can indeed get a 5% local match to do these efforts.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Okay, next slide. Okay, so right now we are proposing 6 applications. We did work with Pete and Bortz, who is our on-term engineering firm contract for utility-related work. They did assist us with some of the cost estimates that you're going to see in a future slide here. But here are your projects. At the wastewater treatment plant, Project 1 is to improve all the electrical there, replace motors, and do drainage improvements. The second project is to do a study to identify hazard mitigation opportunities and strategies for resilience. Application number 3 is at the water treatment plant, and that is for electrical and plumbing improvements to stop floodwater intrusion into the plant. And with the water plant, there's a basement area that really does get flooded quite a bit there. A lot of pump equipment in that area. At the water treatment plant, again, we want to do some studies to identify other opportunities that we may not even be thinking about at this time. Application number 5, we do need some standby generation equipment. Right now, we have a on-site electrical generator, but it can only serve about 50% of the water plant's electrical supply whenever we have a power outage during an event. So we do need to boost that generator capacity at the water plant. And then Chief Slimp also would like to submit an emergency backup generator for the fire and EMS building. We currently do not have. Those are your 6 projects. And next slide. Here are the projected estimates from Pete and Bortz for each of those 6 projects that I just went over. We would be very lucky if we got all 6 grant applications approved. So at this point, we're going to submit all 6 and then see what comes through. The good news is that, until we actually sign the grant agreement, we're not locked into any of these. So I know this is future funding, and that tends to make us all a little bit nervous. But right now, we're going to submit the grant applications, and then if we're funded, we can revisit and reconvene and decide if we want to move forward based on these estimates. Okay, next slide. Okay, so next steps. We are currently submitting the applications into the VDEM grant portal. At your next town council meeting, which is February 24th, Ms. Corbin is...
Number D is the review of ordinance number 1444, personnel policy amendment.
This is a proposal that y'all had asked for that would change the method by which appointed employees basically requires a council action to approve their salary or salary increase. So if you would like to proceed with that, here's the ordinance as it would be written. And you would approve this.
Whoever did it did a good job.
Ms. Corbin will take the full credit for it.
Thank you, Ms. Corbin.
Thank you.
And with that also goes the blame, but.
I think this takes care of what we asked, doesn't it?
Also too, but I just
Yes, I just want to make sure it's what we talked about.
This is a-
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Make sure there's not.
So we'll proceed with ordinance number 1444, February the 24th. Is that correct?
And it has been approved by the town attorney. I read it and he approved it. So.
Thank you so much.
questions or dialogue about that. Next is E, review of ordinance number 1445, permanent change door-to-door sales.
This was a change in state code that needs to be changed in our code, and the 2 items that changed under Division 4, small purchases. Our minimum had been, I believe, 250,000. Under that, you didn't have to go through procurement, and now state has raised that to 300,000. That's on the first page, and then the second portion of this is just basically door-to-door sales licenses have been increased $15 to $20. You want to door-to-door and sell things like dictionaries or y'all seen a lot of encyclopedia peddlers lately. I'm sure. They went out with the internet, so.
Yeah, you can't get rid of them.
You do have a lot of college
Can't give
kids
'em
rolling
away.
through selling magazines and that kind of thing.
Right.
Who would ever thought when we were young and doing our stuff at school with those things that now you can't give them away. The library can't give them away. They can't. Who would have thought that we would have had?
I use mine then all the time.
I wonder if the kids selling donuts also. But anyway, that will be on the 24th. Also, Sherry's prepared both of these.
That'll be the March 10th meeting. This will be on March 10th, yeah.
Yep.
Teacher work session days. Sherry, are you gonna?
Well, just at one of your previous meetings, you all had talked about, there'd been some discussion about when you wanted to have your work sessions. I know Councilwoman Adkins had talked about having regular council on Monday and then the next day on the Tuesday having your work session instead of having one every week like now. But so we just said we would continue to talk about that. So that's why it's on the agenda.
Are you,
I'm fine with that.
you're fine, I'm fine with that too.
You okay with
Everybody
that?
else?
I'm fine.
Fine with that?
So you want to do it on Monday and then have the work session the very next day?
Is that a problem?
Are
It's not
you
a problem
okay?
for you, is that?
Yeah. I mean,
Is
it doesn't matter with us. It's whatever you want to do.
Is
Whatever
that
is
gonna
easy
put
for
a bigger load
council.
on you, having two big?
Well, we used to do it like that all the time. We'll just have to, get in the flow of getting that done. So it might take us, a little bit. I have to look and see scheduled ahead, what we have coming to make sure we don't have work, schedules, public hearings or
We'll
anything.
meet on Monday night, but we won't, but we'll have discuss what we talked about the last. Then we meet the next day, right? So the stuff that we're going to be talking about will be from last week work session, which is fine.
Okay.
And it could have been 2 weeks, but it would have been 2 weeks.
It would be
away.
2 weeks
I'm
ago.
sorry, it'd be 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. Whatever.
Let's try it.
Let's
So-
try. Yeah, it
And
can't.
if we find that it's not
We can
working,
switch it.
Or if we find as town staff that it's not working for us, then we can always let you know.
yes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try, forget it, right? Deal with it.
We learned.
So we're gonna try it in March. We're gonna try. Sherry, we're gonna
Yes,
try
we
it
can
in
start
March.
it. Let's start in March.
Okay.
So we'll do that.
Okay, so
We'll still meet
what are we
next,
gonna do?
you'll meet again on, I think it's March the 4th, I believe will
Well,
be the next
can we
meeting.
talk about that date?
Okay.
That's also Shrove Tuesday, beginning of Lent. I'm gonna be busy at my church. It's a pancake supper on that Tuesday.
You gonna bring everybody pancakes?
Yeah, hey,
You're invited to come and eat pancakes, okay?
There'll be no going to the pancake supper if you can't provide us with pancakes.
I'll provide you all you can eat, Ms. Johnson. I do have a problem on the 4th of March.
Okay, so if we start, we could start March the 10th, I think might be our March, and then we would have it on the 11th, would be the work session, if we're gonna
Okay.
do what Ms. Atkins would like to do.
All right, but
That's
but
fine.
that's 2 or 3 weeks in between.
Yes, it will be.
In
To
between.
get us started, it will be.
It will. It's gonna be.
I think the challenge for us might be is when we meet like today, we're going to be like, if we're meeting out front tonight, we're going to be discussing things from 2 weeks ago, and we're going to want to talk about all this stuff, but that's not until tomorrow morning. It's going to be hard to. But isn't that how we did it though before?
We used to do it before like that,
Is that-
but
Yeah, we did.
yeah, we used to meet on like Monday night and come in at 7 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah.
So it worked.
All
It
right.
worked. This is a
You want to
schedule.
try that?
You want-
March the 10th and
Yeah,
11th?
You
or
want
you
to
wanna-
try it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I just need to be there on the 4th of
I
March,
do too. Our
okay?
church does.
Your church does it too, and it's beginning of Lent, and I work for my church,
So we'll
so.
start, so your next work session after today will be March the 11th.
11th.
I believe that's correct. I don't have a calendar, but I'm just going from memory.
March 11th at 4 p.m.
Yes, unless you want to change the time.
We could do a work session another day that week if you really want to, but it's whatever you want to do. We have interviews. We're going to have to meet,
Thursday, the
and
27th.
then we won't meet again until the 11th.
For a work session.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's when we discussed the applications, isn't it?
You have a closed meeting on March the 10th.
Okay. I know that after the 11th, after the 12th, that is gonna be tight for me. I will not be here for Friday, Thursday, Friday of the end of that week. So I'm good with the 10th and the 11th.
Okay. All right.
We'll work all this.
All right.
We'll try it. It'll be fine. That's easy stuff.
Thank you for working out March 4th with me, okay?
I'll talk to you.
Yes,
And you'll let Miss Atkins know, won't you? Or would you please, rather?
I will.
Thank you.
Agenda is to continue the discussion regarding the disbursement of the Sutherland Memorial Fund.
I don't have a whole lot on that, but we've had donations that total $6,000 added to that number, so we're at about $15,000+. Have not had a discussion with any of the family members yet. I need to do that. Unless you all heard something.
I say way back, that they talked about parks. And they talked about Elizabeth Brown Park because that was the first park that he had done, so to speak. But I'm sure they're open to anything, but I think parks was probably one there. Heart. That was a while back, so who knows? I don't know.
Well, I'll try to have some discussions with them in the next.
If they are looking for ideas, maybe we could offer some. I didn't know if they were asking or not for any ideas.
I think they would be pleased with some ideas based on what I've
Maybe.
seen.
Had a few ideas. Maybe you could run by the mayor, then we could talk about. I was actually going to talk to you about that anyway, just to see a couple of things that came to mind. I don't have that information tonight. I'm not really prepared to talk about that, but I had some ideas that might be considered. Didn't know what they wanted to do, what direction.
That's it. So I think if we can find out if they are passionate about one thing or another. I know Parks was it, and then, but they could have a change of heart. They could have done different.
I'd kind of like to see Wayne's name on something. I don't know how you feel about that, but is there a structure we're going to build in the park? It could, something that could bear his name. Just a thought, something. Yes, Charlie. Sorry.
I want to know the mayor. They Sutherland had reached out to us a year ago. I don't know if someone's issues at the time. They were somewhat interested in having some of the money to build newer, more updated stages. Elizabeth Brown, Chicago, potentially naming them.
So name
Sutherland
yeah,
stage
perfect.
or something.
Thank you. I think there's some real opportunities for something like that in the parks. Great. So you'll let us know if they would like some help. Thank you.
Do something again. probably have the money now to really do something.
And I'm sure once there comes to a focus, they'll probably get more money too.
Yeah.
And people just kind of hang back to
Wait and see what's going to
see
happen.
what's going to. Well, thank you, Steve, for checking with them.
Yeah,
Make
thank
sure
you.
you can do that. Next is town manager updates.
A whole sheet of
And
it.
that would be you.
I'll try to be as brief as possible. See, we had some discussions about street lights, and the ones that are out, and I've had discussions with AEP about that. And they assure me we'll get them the information, they will get to fix them. The trouble is they do this in groups because they have to hire flagmen for their trucks on in the street, changing those bulbs out or changing out ballasts in the street light. And they would like to do those in groups so that they don't have to spend so much on flagmen every time they replace them. So I understand that, but that doesn't get our streets lit. So I've talked to them, and I think they're going to improve that strategy a little bit. So if you see a street light out, let me know. We'll try to get a number. But I bet you I've seen a dozen out lately that have not repaired for some time. I'm just getting those. Police department is supposed to be making those engineering, get the number from the AP. So, keep me informed about that. We'll get that. Y'all had some discussion, or I had a discussion with at least one of you who would like to see us proceed to the Public Works Director position and get that filled. I had suggested you wait until a new town manager comes on board, but that may be a moot point. The fact that they'll be on probation during that time would give the new town manager the opportunity to weigh in on performance anyway. So maybe that's a good thing. So if you are agreeable, we'll go ahead and start pulling some applications and start some interview process.
Sounds good.
We're gonna stop filling those spots, especially since it takes so long to do it.
We've had lots of requests from Ms. Burrito for information about the cat shelter. We started a meeting with her. We started a meeting with her several weeks ago, and she was not real happy with our responses on some of those things. So we submitted a whole new set of questions. We sent that out. We treated it as a FOIA request. Sent that out today. Most of it had to do with cats that were either in the process of being adopted, in that process being neutered, as a result of the requirement that the adoptee take care of that. We have about 80 that we're waiting to hear from because of the lag. They have 6 months to get that done. Because of the lag when they were adopted, it's about 80 that we still have to that one. But police department, I think, is doing a reasonable job, and now that this has been focused on them, they're doing a reasonable job of getting information. But I will speak up. Excuse me. Thank you. We just went through some of the wastewater and water treatment plant funding, flooding that happened. We had another event, we had some problems this past weekend, but all those have been, to my knowledge, have been corrected in operation. The East Main Street sewer project, did you see out there? Pipe is there. The contractor has been trying to work, but with the weather conditions as they are, that's been delayed somewhat. I don't have a completion date, but that obviously, if we get more snow this week, that's going to take care of that for this week. So we'll just keep you informed as to where that is. At our staff meeting last week, I just reminded people about the inclement weather policy. I want to say that given what we are suspecting yet tonight and tomorrow and possibly Thursday, I'll be keeping an eye on that. We may close some more facilities again. Probably will open the rec center late, 8 o'clock versus 30 opening, and possibly close this facility and all the associated facilities. But I'm gonna wait until I see what's coming down before I make a call. We did have some employees who were questioning why in the central departments they weren't also granted a day off when everybody in the facilities had a day off. That's something that you can look at in the personnel policy, but it is an expensive proposition if you want to pursue that. If you understand what I'm saying. These facilities were closed, but essential personnel had to turn out, had to be at work. They did not get a day off, whereas everybody here got a paid day.
How is that? I'm sorry, Mr. Moore. How is that dealt with in the county? Do you know how the county deals with that essential? Do they
I
make
do
up any
not
difference?
know.
Do you know, Mr. Johnson?
I do not know what
I
it
should
is for
ask you, sorry.
full-time people.
Yeah,
If part-time people, we just do not,
You don't
court
get,
security, we don't get paid
yeah.
if they're closed, because we're part-time, but I do not know the rules for full-time people. I know that previously being an essential worker, in my previous years of work, if I did not, when I became non-essential, I had to use my vacation time. If I was not able to make it, they're fine, but I had to use vacation time, any kind of leave that I had accrued is what I used if I was not able to make it
That's
to
the
work.
way
And
it
I
is
think
here,
that's
yeah.
the way that
Mhm.
that's the way that it goes. If people can't get here, that's fine, but you use your leave that you have accrued.
So something about it. I just hope we can talk a little bit more about because this is something that happens very seldom. Mrs. Corbin shared 33. Well, this hasn't happened since 1993, which is 30 years ago, right? Plus, so it's so rare that it happens that I would like the essential employees to be considered. I just know. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like I want to talk. I want to talk about that a little bit more because it's a day for them, and he's sitting right here. Here's somebody that it affects personally. It's okay to let us know what
I mean, I
your
agree with
thoughts
what
on that.
you're saying.
I mean,
It's gotta be fair.
just be across the board
Yeah.
because it's not happening very often. But I would like us to maybe consider given those days. I think they could work their schedule, take in one extra day. Couldn't you all work that out? Pretty
So
easily.
you give an annual
Well, it's
day
a thought. It's
for
just a
those
thought.
that didn't get off.
But I mean, it just seems like what are your thoughts, Beth? I mean, Dr. Taylor, what are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
I agree. I mean, there's gotta be some way to make it even Steven. Or it just might not be the same day, be the same, in the same method, whatever. Give them an option, they should have a day tucked away for them to.
Any thoughts, Miss Holton?
I mean, it could be like a repaid holiday, correct? So don't essential get paid for repaid holidays? Because when there's a holiday and essentials are working, then they do get you get the comp day, right?
Right. That's
So-
what I was thinking, a compensatory day.
Go that angle?
If you want to, you would just give them an 8-hour day or a 6-hour day, whatever the closure
Right.
was.
8 hours of compensatory time is what it is called. You could do that for the people that come in. You could do,
If you've got the guys on the snowplows, you have there's a lot of them. Isn't there?
Right.
There's a significant
Right.
number of people that
And
have to
so-
work.
and they may,
Partial days.
What about like when the rest of us, and I just hear this from my employees, what about when they close the rec center early or open it late? You see, they're getting see how that is for them, but nobody else ever gets anything from that. I mean, there's give and take. You know, what I hear from employees are a lot of these employees get perks that people in this building don't get, like boots and uniforms. And, you know, every department has its own perks. And, you know, that's just things that I hear from employees. You know, it's like, this is a day off for us, but look at all the other things. You know, they get meals if they work and different things like that.
I think we need more discussion. Yeah,
I definitely
like
want to would be open to. Are you okay talking
let's
about
give it
this
some more thought.
Yes, we can. I think we do. We should
Yeah.
give it a little bit more thought.
And maybe get more information about the number of people it actually affects, because I have no idea.
Right.
I think it's probably
But we
more
can
than I
take a
think.
look at what each department, like she says, what each department is getting. I know that I knew some of the public works people, if they were working, sometimes they will buy them food. Am I correct? Incorrect? That's correct. So
During the-
they're
during the-
compensated somewhat while they are working.
Yeah.
So we need to look at it as a whole to try to even it out for everybody. I
Yeah.
guess. So we need to have a little bit more discussion, I guess.
And get more information.
Mm-hmm.
So could you help us, or somebody help us with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I would be asking for is the number of people that it affects, and if you could see what the county, well, just like you said, they give comp time, so that's probably the best way you could probably do that. And does the town allow employees to get paid for comp time if it builds up to a certain number of hours, or can they not get paid for comp?
I understand compensation time to be time that is taken at a later date, and it's not paid.
That's the way I anticipate.
That's the way that I understand I could be.
So would the option be for the? Let me ask you this
Isn't that
question.
right?
Well, that is correct, but I mean, I think how it's supposed to be, if you're going to work overtime, you're supposed to ask your employee, do you want to get paid or do you want comp time before you start it?
Depends on if they're exempt or not exempt.
Right. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but I'm
Depends
talking
on
for
their
like,
status.
yeah.
So I
Okay.
think for not exempt employees,
Right.
that
They
are
can take
supposed
either
to-
one.
yes, they have an option because of the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act.
Right,
They're
exactly.
protected, that you can't, as an employer, you can't tell them that you'd give them comp time instead of overtime. that right?
Yes. But I mean, most exempt employees are like department heads or management versus normal employees are usually non-exempt.
So another question, would a employee ever have the option to get paid for the day instead of taking comp time? Like get paid for the day? Like you were saying, when somebody works on Christmas Day, do they get comp time for that day, or do you get paid double for that day? How does that happen?
No, we just get regular pay. And if you're working that day, you can take that.
So it's just so it'd be okay, I see.
Called repaid holiday, but the terminology is misleading
Gotcha.
because they get
Yeah.
the time, not the pay.
Yes, that's why, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's have more conversation.
On Thursday, we're supposed to have interviews for the town manager, more interviews for the town manager. See what looks like.
That's on the 27th. That would be
I'm
next
sorry,
week.
27th. Yeah, I'm just jumping
Hopefully
ahead.
the snow will be gone.
It may be snowing.
Hopefully it'll be
Hope
gone.
not. It will be not. Let's see, for, Vice Mayor Johnson and Councilwoman Atkins, we were looking at a couple of people who had been reclassified, after the Bolton study. And I'm still getting the information on that, but I want to let you know we're still working on that. We'll bring that to everybody as we get on. So, but I think we do have now the ultimate Bolton study classification and how they were reclassified and what that meant. So the question was, it looked like they had been demoted, put them into an income category that better suited the department as a whole, but it did look like it did take away some benefit in salary people. So we'll bring that to you at a later time. But we do have the information. The police department is having their deputy chief interviews starting on Thursday. That's the one that's weather affected potentially, so, but anyway.
But 3 of them's gonna be, because
Okay, good.
How many do you have total, chief? 7?
7.
Okay. Oh, good.
You educate me as to who does the interviews, obviously, you'd be in there.
Sure. There, person from police. Oh, Holly's name. Yeah, part of it.
Atkins, a police chief. Anyway,
Yeah, police chief.
You say 2 people from Gallup? Or the chief?
The chief.
Chief, okay, I misunderstood you, I'm sorry.
Or there's one basically.
So those are for the interview process. Those are people who sit in.
Yes.
And you said the 7 people?
Yes.
Okay.
You all need to be reminded to be talking among yourselves about the compensation relative to health insurance, and because that will be on the agenda for next council meeting. So just don't forget that. And remember Paul's cautions to do that on one-on-one, not to do it in writing. So you have that information.
This brought up, can I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
Miss Holly?
No, I didn't know she was, so that's why I was asking who's on the panel.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't supposed to put herself on.
And I'm not sure if she's a voting member or if she's just there to sit in.
And we got other people on the panel. I felt like it was a conflict. Person's the interview, she works with that person, at the vocational school.
That would be a little conflict.
And I had many discussions with Councilwoman Atkins about this, and she had agreed not to, but then when the person she wanted to sit in on the panel couldn't make it, I haven't heard this, but yeah, directly that she's back on today.
We don't have control over each other. We don't do that as members of council. I mean, if somebody puts themselves in a room, we have no control over that.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you. But we don't vote. We did not vote on anything like that. I've asked to be involved in the public works person who was going to be taking the job. That was because I'm very interested in public works. So I would express why I would like to be involved in it. However, if it were a conflict of any kind, I would certainly not be involved in it. So it was just asking because I was very interested in that. I cannot speak for why she wants to be involved in your interview. I do not know. But I do think that you will hold the key to making that choice. That won't be any individual persons in that room's choice. So I don't think it takes away anything from your ability to choose who you want to choose. That's my thought on that. Because it really, I mean, that's really not our power. That lies within your power, not council's, unless something's changed that I don't know about.
I don't have any doubt in your capabilities at all.
Yes, I think I don't either. However,
That's the position.
is that okay? Answer.
I think you've got a pretty, you're the people that you've chosen. I think that's a good interview. People that are on there, I think you've done well. So.
Yes, I just need clarification. So is she on the voting board or
Yes.
she just
She's gonna be on
wants
the
to
voting
hang out and see
No,
what's
she's gonna be
going
the
on?
voting board.
Well, that might be a conversation for Paul to decide if that's a conflict of interest for the council. If it's a conflict of interest for the entire council, then I have a issue with it. But that, I think, needs to come from Mr. Castle, because I don't know.
I have a little trouble contacting him about that this week.
When is the interview?
I mean, I'm fine. I mean, yeah, I have to deal, I mean, I can deal with it. Just, sort of,
Well, if it's bothering you, it should bother us too.
I did not know this person had a vote. That's not what I thought was happening either, because I did not intend to have a vote when I am there. I just wanted to hear, but not to vote. I think that would be appropriate for me as well. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I was just
Okay.
interested, not wanting to vote on it. So,
And can we contact I don't know if you can contact the VML to see if it is right, and I don't know what the answer is.
HR director, Ms. Helbert, has asked them that on several occasions. They basically said it's not a normal, not a normal practice, excuse me, but had basically said, but if a council member wants to do it, we'll hard to prevent that happening.
however, them having a vote is a very different thing than them being there. So I was not aware there was a vote involved. So I have a concern with that. So whatever that means, is that what you understood happening? Ms. Johnson, I hate to put you on the spot. Did you know about what was happening with that?
No,
Because I knew she wanted to be involved, but I didn't know as a
No.
voting member. Because I think that is inappropriate unless you have a strong background in law enforcement.
I mean, myself personally, I don't have a desire to go and sit in, and I don't.
Well, maybe I'll show up too. Maybe let's just all show up.
Can't do that. Sorry.
All right.
That'll be a meeting.
Yeah.
If we could get in touch with Paul, he's probably checking his emails, and then staff will go from there to try to get
In
an
a couple of
opinion.
days, he'd be off a couple of days.
And then, maybe ask, maybe someone can, speak to her and see,
But she just lost. She
I
just
have
took
not
us
heard
lost.
directly from her that she planning to vote, though. I have not heard that specific.
Lauren told me that.
She did, okay.
So this is happening like
Thursday.
2 days from now.
a couple hours ago. So, might be easier to, okay, I'm sorry.
We've been talking with the county about the fire, rescue money. I had talked with a couple of you, and I talked to Stephen Bear and told him that I thought 200,000 we would be interested in for their contribution for the next year versus the 100,000. As of our meeting last, I didn't get that feeling, but he had already heard from me. So he got the board to agree to that 200,000 for this upcoming funding year versus the 100,000. He had proposed in his proposal to me 2 years, that's this year and the next, 1 year and the next year, which brings you to the end of the contract. I had only said for the upcoming year, not for the 2 years. So you have that as a negotiation point, I believe. They have approved for 2 years. In that discussion, though, I did have with him about them participating in the purchase of a fire engine. which is in the $1.0 to $1.3 million range. He is receptive to keep that in the discussions, and I feel like that would be something they would participate in 50-50, which is what they did on the last truck. If that's in the mix, I think it's based on the information I've gotten from Chris, that would be probably a reasonable thing to consider. But I will go back to him, however you tell me, relative to their proposal to us that be 200,000 for 2 years.
Is this replacing the now ladder truck that we have? Is it the big ladder truck?
I'm
no,
not
it's
sure
a different one?
it would be replacing a fire engine. They would keep that same ladder truck in service.
So it's
But I guess the prices have just gone up
We
astronomically.
bought one for $450,000 in 2017. Remember? $450. Now it's $1 million. It may not be the same kind of truck, but
and the caveat to that was they would consider a reasonable price truck if you load it down with all kinds of bells and whistles. They may not be willing to contribute. But that's a discussion we have now. That discussion probably should be in closed session, but I'm just giving you that right now. So we have a proposal from them.
Did I hear you say for the next 2 years, he and his board have agreed?
They've sent us a proposal.
So they will pay for 2 years, 200,000. So is that when the contract comes to an end in 2 years? And that's when we're able to renegotiate everything. Okay. So at least we did get an increase. We're not being stuck at that same amount. So I think that it's a blessing that we did get an increase. And I think that moving forward, we need to be wise in our dealings and present the proper numbers. And you did say they were going to be willing to go 50-50 for.
That was in our discussion. But I don't believe he's taken that forward at that now.
Okay.
They did that in the past.
and there are seats. There are at least 2 of the county representatives who have chosen not to run. And so you're going to have seats change in the county, which always makes a difference when you're negotiating. Exactly. You hope
Relationships might change.
it can make a difference, right? So anyway, just saying. Thank you very much.
You always get more bees with honey.
Yeah. But
It's
next
never
time
failed.
I'm at 450 still.
We're gonna get it. We just have
We'll get
to.
up to, yeah. But we have 100 extra. We went from 1 to 200, so that's success. That's progress. So thank you.
It's a small
Thank you.
step.
It's in the right direction.
Yes, it is.
So that's
And
good.
once we
Yes, it
get
is.
more numbers and get everything,
We'll have
Mr.
2
Schlimp
years
is
to
doing
work on
good.
that.
He's a good negotiator.
And
Yeah.
so everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right.
Speaking of Mr. Snip, if I may, did we ever decide what we were doing on allowing them to go ahead with their program? I know we were looking at the proposed contract and we all had that. Did we decide to let them go ahead?
Career development.
Career development, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't think what it was called. Or did we not?
Did you send us out something about that?
I don't think I sent you anything, but I think that you did
Had it taught, but we never really.
discuss
They were-
that.
We were
Right.
waiting on a reply about,
Well, I was waiting on the actual proposal, which we did get, and we had time to look at those. Was there something? I don't think there was anything else we were waiting on.
I thought council had gotten something because the
We did.
PD also had wanted to do that. So
Right.
both entities wanted to do it, and there was something about the budget.
we were waiting on a reply for cost of living. Is that right, Ms.?
That was my
Mm-mm.
recommendation, but
Yeah.
I think you guys proceeded with giving it your blessing. in
Well,
this quarterly committee
It's on
Huh?
the next council agenda for you to approve the policies.
Okay.
And so how it was supposed to be, you were supposed to read them and come back with anything that you wanted changed in it. And we haven't heard from you, so it's on the next council agenda for Monday evening to approve the policies.
Right. And they made their corrections. I think they needed to make some corrections. They made your corrections.
Good.
They sent their corrections back, and I didn't have an issue. So
I haven't seen
It's on
anything
the-
since the last meeting,
Okay.
Good.
so that's what you're going
Great.
to see in your
I
package.
don't know if anybody else needs an updated pack.
Yes, we'll send you one out. It'll go out Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Just checking on that. I couldn't remember what we're doing.
We talked about a joint meeting with, two members of the board of supervisors, and members of council, and I think the county is agreeable to that, would welcome that opportunity. I have not broached the subject of the joint governing bodies meetings again, but I will be doing that near future. Those are
What would be, help me out, we would be meeting to discuss,
things just like
we want to,
fire services,
Okay.
water.
cat
Yeah,
shelter,
water,
water. And that was the other thing, as my understanding that Stephen is okay with the 77.8% multiplier on the water that comes from the regional authority. We then tell them. But I haven't seen anything official on it. I believe you. That's,
So,
another step in the right direction.
that was the percentage we had originally.
It was,
and so we continue.
well,
And so he was okay with that. And he needs to discuss it with,
He has to get approval, of course, from the board, but I feel like that, he felt like that was reasonable.
So with the county and the council going to meet, how would that work? How are we doing that? Who's meeting? I'm kind of excited
You're talking
about,
the two people that,
yeah.
I
so
think
like,
it was
it'd be like-
Candace and Holly,
Okay,
who, raise your hand first.
Okay. yeah, well,
So-
that's cool, because that'd be a lot of opportunity to talk about, just sort of ease into just a general conversation about,
We did that a
things.
while back,
okay, cool.
for once,
Great.
and Wayne was still, and, no, I was on it, and, but anyway, it was fun, and it was good dialogue, but unfortunately, when it would go to the rest of, like the county or something, it kind of got thumbs down. But we weren't really, I think we were trying to negotiate some with the fire, which is, but it was good to meet with them, and that, so I think would be good to start that over.
I liked your idea also of us just hosting it here. Let everybody come and us being the host, open the door. So I think that is
That's what the joint, because it used to be we would go to a retreat, right, and then yeah. So I think you're right when it's here, but that was. I remember those being a little on the boring side,
Well,
but
you have to have
I mean
some
there
good
wasn't a whole lot
dialogue.
going on if you think about
Otherwise
it. But I
they're
think things
ugly.
have changed now, and there's maybe more stuff to talk about. But yeah, but we.
Was not, well, except for the last hour of the last one, and that's why there hasn't been any more, but, we can talk.
I think it became more of a social event than really a meeting event, which it had to be, but it was the opportunity to meet them in
Sure.
person. It's probably a good.
But this, I think, is going to be really good.
Let's not give up on it, but I think
Sure.
going forward, Wayne wants for the two of y'all meet with whatever, and then you guys can discuss whether or not all three entities could, get together again, but
They
it was kind of boring.
They do have new members, I think, on more retreats, town council, so it would be really good to do that so that we can meet. There are people that I don't know on more retreats, town council. And then Mr. Hand is now back on, so it gives people an opportunity to come together and establish relationships and build. So I am for building positive and good relationships. So
So maybe it should be more of a social event than an actual meeting. Like it's a meet and greet. Come and have some hors d'oeuvres and instead of actually trying to meet like we used to do, you were sitting there, it was kind of boring, and everybody, it was not, you didn't really pick up on a lot. So maybe what you're talking about makes more sense as a social meet and greet
bit more.
type thing.
Yeah. Make it a little snazzy.
Yeah. Dancing will be
And start.
disco balls, whatever everything.
You might not want to do that. And get my hand smacked over the budget.
We do have a issue at the town shop building. It's been roof leaked tremendously badly. And this past snow and rain event, there was some effort to replace that roof. It didn't go anywhere for a number of reasons, but we're still working on trying to get that replaced. It'll probably be a month or two before that can happen. But it is something that's critically important. They're waiting on it. Top of water all over for schools. Pretty critical that we get on top of that. On 24th, we hope to have some information relative to the budget together for you in terms of revenue. So sometime that week, I'm not sure quite how we'll handle it at this point in time, but still, this is going to be a real fall year because we have a lot of federal agencies that may disappear and a lot of that funding may go away or may be suspended, that kind of thing. So we're going to have to really be conservative, I think, in our estimate of revenue. The other half of that is with the tariffs and those kinds of things in question. It could be we're in a little bit of a recession, so we need to probably be very conservative. So I'm not sure that we're going to have a surplus of funds this year. We may have to cut a number of capital projects, but that's just an overview thus far. We haven't really delved deep into.
Mr. Moore, is there going to be a time soon? I know that I've heard some concerns from council members that that they want to get in the meat of things with you guys as far as doing the budget for next year.
We want to get into the meat of things too, but we're we're skimming the surface right now. We're just beginning to get the numbers together.
I was just reminded.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, I know
We're
you
trying
are.
to have something for you, but it's been a few years since I've done it. A lot of people are gone. A lot of people have changed positions, and it's really hard to dredge up some of these numbers that we had previously at our fingertips.
Where is the public works budget coming from? Who is actually doing the public works
Well,
budget?
they'll be
They'll do
they'll
it.
be putting together their request for capital projects, and we'll just use their
So
staff
the
numbers in terms of
supervisors
staffing
will
and
be-
that kind of.
Because that's not who does it typically, is it? Isn't it the director?
Director would normally
So it
do
would be
that.
the supervisors who do
But
it.
these guys have a pretty good handle on
Sure.
what they need. It's whether we can afford everything we need. So
Yeah.
there's always that red pencil. And I believe, Sherry, if I'm not mistaken, that this 24th will be the first electronic meeting if
Yes.
everything works out.
If everybody has their iPads, I know IT's working on yours. Have you gotten yours yet? Okay. So we can't start till everybody gets their equipment. So I just want to check with everybody and see, do you have your iPad or do you have your laptop and are you prepared? But of course, if Beth doesn't get hers pretty quickly, we're not going to be able to start till March the 10th because your package has to go out by Thursday morning. So we may have to wait till March the 10th to start because we can't if she doesn't have her stuff.
You can still have a paper copy.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
all the rest of us can still do it.
Yeah, we could do that. Okay. Does that, Kathy, do you have yours?
I've got mine.
Everything's
Whether it's
ready
going to
and
work
you're
in this
ready?
building or not, I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, yeah, it'll be a learning curve for all of us
Yeah.
because staff will also be bringing their laptops and stuff with them. So, and I just feel like we'll have to move a little bit slower because, everybody's got to find their place and get used to it. But I think it's a good thing. It's a green thing, nice green thing to do. So,
And I was able to do it. I loved it. It's just that if my emails would jam up and I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like just going through and
so on that Thursday, you're going to get your package. So if for some reason you would not get it, I mean, we always try to send them by probably noon or 1. If you don't get it by then, please call and let us know. Let's figure out what's going on. And I have put in the council budget this year to buy laptops for all the stations. So before long, we won't have to worry about people bringing theirs. It'll already be there for you. And that's all. So if Beth gets hers and everything's good, we'll begin. If not, I'll let you know if we're going to do paper tomorrow. Okay. So be prepared. I know Councilwoman Atkins still wants a paper copy, but what you'll get at your meeting at your desk, you'll just get an agenda. That's all that'll be there for you. So, okay, that's great.
I got a note from Billy today that it looks like the 20th Street Bridge project has been delayed a little bit due to steel, orders for steel. And it probably not starting until late April, early May, so that probably pushes back the completion date a couple of months. But just be aware that it's out there. We had a complaint about buses, about them being dirty from a lady that Taylor was trying to help. I did a quick stop inspection on this. I flagged one of them down and just asked them to look at the bus. Turns out the driver knew me and recognized me and stopped immediately and said, "Yeah, come on in." So they are really, really clean. They sweep them down at least once a day, and I think probably twice.
Well, there was probably more misinformation that was put to me besides just that, but didn't go forward with it.
Yeah, just so you know, it looks to me like they're as clean as any bus you're going to get on.
Thank you for doing
Had a request from Billy. When we had the water line break a couple of weeks ago on Holston Road, he realized that there is no way to valve off. There are no ways to valve off effectively a number of neighborhoods when we have a water leak, and he would like to divert some money that he has in another fund, getting it into placing valves in these lines. And I think that's a good thing to consider. So if you all have any objection, I'm going to give him an authorization to change this fund. So
That sounds good. That sounds reasonable.
it will help.
Thank you.
Keep from having to close down half a town
Right.
when we have a water leak, or hopefully that would. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
thank you for looking into. I know it's 5 people and we all have stuff, but thank you for looking into everything that, we ask. I really appreciate you. I do.
I try to be sure somebody's looking into everything you ask me, and if I don't get back to you on something, please call me and remind me. Oh. And if you don't, I know Sherry will.
Yeah, that's who you got to watch. Right.
You think in the future we could get an update on the per diem, the meals policy? Please. Could we talk that next session?
Didn't we discuss that in budget and finance?
We did, but we never
Okay.
finalized it, okay?
Okay, so I believe I saw something and I don't know if they have increased it. So we might want to look, I'll have to go and look up some stuff, but I think they may have just recently increased it. I could be wrong, but I believe I did see something to where they increased it. I know we were going to do $50 a day, But I think that they may have increased it. Am I correct or incorrect?
It's the federal level.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think they increased it.
What I recall was that we were considering, this was budget and finance,
Mhm.
we were considering just following the federal GSA
Yeah.
so that, because the federal GSA, they periodically review and increase their per diems to keep up with inflation. And so instead of having an actual dollar value in our policy, if we reference the federal GSA, as the federal GSA goes up or down, the town would go accordingly with that. And that's also what the state does. So that's what we talked about in budget and finance,
was.
but whatever you all want to do is fine with.
So is this, I'm ignorant here, so is this the employees?
Meals.
I know we looked at the
Oh, when they
GSA, but we had
travel,
discussed
okay,
okay,
at
yeah.
least $50 a day. I do remember that right off the top of my head because I had an issue with employees going and eating, trying to eat off of $20. So I wanted it increased to at least $50, but they brought in the information from the GSA and they shared that information with us in the budget and finance meeting that they got off of the GSA. But I recently saw where it had increased. I don't know what the dollar amount it was increased to, but I brought it up in the budget and finance meeting because I did not like the fact that our employees were trying to eat off of $20 if they travel, which is a crying shame. So I had brought it up to increasing it to $50 in the budget and finance meeting. It was something that I had initially brought to the table because I wanted that changed. I do know that they changed that recently. I don't know what the amount is, but we can take a look at that and see. But I felt like at the time, $20 was not enough. And I had initially spoke of $50 in the original budget and finance meeting.
I'd just like to finalize it.
That's fine. It
Yeah.
does need to be finalized
It
so that
does.
they have enough to eat off of.
And while you're doing, they may as well tie the mileage rate to the same standard, just so if it changes. That'll
Can management come back with those figures for us, please? Thank you.
And that's as simple as, like you have your ordinance tonight amending the personnel policy.
Yeah.
I would just write an ordinance just exactly like that, just changing that section to whatever you want it to be.
Okay.
So, very good. Thank you, Ms. Gorman.
Anything else, Mr. Moore?
all I have. Unless you have questions for me.
I don't think so, but we'll
Can we go back to Billy's request on Holston Road?
Yeah.
You said funds. From what fund to what fund? Where does he want to transfer? Help me out here. Where are we transferring money?
It was a CIP item that you approved last year in the water fund.
Okay.
For $250,000 to,
On Route 11 or Lee Highway, fixing the water line from about the country club down. Yeah. Something like that. No, he doesn't have a listed amount.
it was $250,000 was originally allocated for that project.
Okay.
Because we were experiencing quite a bit of water leaks along that section, and they were patching them. However, and what I understood from Mr. Anderson was that this particular year, the water leaks have slowed down. And so that need has gone down in priority, but what has risen is we've had several high-profile water leaks. We had an individual who hit a hydrant on North 4th Street. I don't know if you guys remember that. And they couldn't isolate the water system. And that part of town at North 4th Street in Holston is really in need of the valves because of, like, when we have a bad water leak. We recently had one on Holston Road as well that they could not isolate. But what happens is because of the lack of valves, you've got Walmart and you've got all the industries out there that get severely impacted because you can't isolate the leak. And so I think Billy just recognized the problem because of those two high profile leaks and said, whoa, Nellie, instead of spending money on Wesley, we really need to spend that money on this replace or in these valves.
All right.
So
Depending on how much this costs, we could still maybe do some work there, but, he'd like to divert that funding. He just telling me, I don't think they'll have to even do a budget revision.
Quick thing, a tractor trailer has hit a fire hydrant on Presbyterian Cove on the corner. It's leaning over, and you can tell where they've knocked over the post around the fire hydrant. Surprised there's no water coming out, but it is damaged pretty bad. On the corner of Presbyterian Cove Road, right at Passanel, right there at the corner. That must have just happened.
Else? Adjourned.